this is the train.
Oh, so I would come to next year, but I will set your allergies.
That's okay,
So
yeah,
I might
stay over
need
there.
to sit further back. We've worked out, and my cat hair steps Sarah's allergies really on like anything, any cat hair.
Yeah.
I hope you're not allergic. Oh.
Yeah,
In home group, I have to sit on the other end of this from the master.
Well, not just, I don't feel so bad as it's not just me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite sensitive though, if it's just the hair
I
on
don't
it.
know if it's a particular cat.
It's some cats are okay and other cats really not okay.
Tortoises are obviously evil, have evil saliva or something, yeah. Oh, so they haven't had fun, but just like not all day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long day for them, so you can understand it. She's shattered now.
We were there on Friday. It's exhausting, isn't it? Bolton's.
I don't know, I mean, they're quite slow at their age, so it's not like a full-on pace. But she's so tired tonight, and I'm like, oh, it's Sunday night, so she's staying at my mum and dad's. We're not going to feel the benefit of how tired she is. It's always when she stays at their house that
Oh,
she's really
amazing.
tired.
But they'll be thanking you, they'll be like, oh, lovely.
I know, well, nearly every Monday, they're like, oh, she slept so well, we didn't hear her at all, she slept till 8. What? Never sleeps till 8.
It's hilarious.
I think they just don't hear her.
I don't know, because all of ours behave so well at ours. And you could sort of say to parents, you know, they're doing fine, absolutely fine.
And they ate this and that, like, what?
Best behaved
Love it.
for grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a small group of us. A couple of people watching online as well. Welcome. Hello. What I thought we would do is just use the space for a bit of reflection, really. I've prepared a few words thinking about the cross in particular. But I thought we'd just start off with a bit of worship time to just sing loudly or find space and close your eyes, whatever, get yourself comfortable at home if that's what you're doing. And just to worship, there's 3 songs just going to play through, just to kind of give us a bit of space as we begin the evening. So I'm going to pray and then we'll make a start. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the beautiful sunshine, for the opportunity to enjoy that and to be reminded that spring is coming or is here. And that is the same for us in our life and walk with you, that spring is here. The new season is here. There's hope because you're doing a new thing. So we just offer you this evening, we offer you this space, and we ask God that you would come and have your way with us. Amen. Let's worship.
When the music fades, all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's a word that will bless your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made. When it's all about you, it's all about you, Jesus. live in this world. No one can express how much you deserve. Though I'm weak and poor, all I have is yours. Every single word. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. Yeah. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for everything I made. When it's all about you, it's all about you, Jesus. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, 'cause it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for everything I've made. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. All about you. I'll bring you more than a song. I'll bring you more than a song. More than a song. I'll bring you more than a song. I'll bring you more than a song. You're looking into my heart. Looking into my heart. You're looking into my heart, into my heart. I'll bring you more than a song. 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 Let the king of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he's my song. And let the king of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he's my song. Yes, you are. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, and let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sail. You're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down.
Pause there. I wonder. Just have a little think. So we are, of course, in that season of Lent and that time where we're just taking a bit of space to reflect and to think about and prepare ourselves ahead of Easter. And I just wonder whether or not it'd be good just to think about the cross. I think so often we can kind of feel like we know it and understand it. But I was just struck this week, particularly when thinking and praying about the fact that it says, the cross is foolishness to some, and I was just really struck by that reminder of just how central the cross is in our lives, and yet for so often, so many who don't know Jesus, it seems complete folly, seems completely ridiculous, doesn't seem to make any sense at all. So I just wanted to read from Matthew chapter 16. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, son of Simon of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and on the third day be raised again. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "Never, Lord," he said, "this shall never happen to you." Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good would it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." If I had to pick a disciple that I related to most, it'd probably be Peter. Because in one moment he seems to get everything right, and then in the next gets it all completely wrong again. And that certainly seems to be something that I managed to do. In this short passage, he seems to go from hero proclaiming God, Jesus the Messiah, and then completely being told he's essentially Satan, and he needs to get behind him. You see, Peter's view of who a Messiah was going to be is that it was going to be someone who was going to come with military might and sort it all out and deal with everything, that they'd march on Jerusalem, Jesus would be made king in the temple, the Romans would be kicked out, and everything was going to be sorted. That was his view, and probably quite a few people's view about what it would be like in terms of a Messiah. In fact, that's still what many Jews are holding out for today, waiting for this new Messiah that's going to come and restore the kingdom of Israel back to how it should have been. But we know that this isn't going to be the way of Jesus. Jesus doesn't come in on a stallion or a battle horse. He comes in on a donkey, we'll read at Palm Sunday. And yes, he does get mad at times. He does flip over tables. He does get cross in a sort of righteous anger about the injustices he sees. But he doesn't throw out the Romans. In fact, he tells people that they should respect the authorities over them, pray for them, and pay to Caesar what is Caesar's. See, Jesus' kingdom is one of total upside downness. If we want to save our life, we must be willing to lose it. What I want is to save my life, and I want to prolong my life, and that's kind of what society is about, isn't it? It's like, well, this medical miracle is going to prolong life, or this cream is going to eradicate signs of aging, or whatever it might be. Eating this diet will make a difference, or whatever. You see, we don't want to talk about death. We want to try and prolong life and hold on to it for as long as possible, and that seems to be the message of society. And yet Jesus is so countercultural in saying to follow him is going to cost absolutely everything, and we need to be willing to lay everything down, to lay everything at the feet of Jesus and to pick up the cross. It's going to cost us everything: our power, our reputation, our identity, our plans for life, all we hold dear, to grasp onto Jesus. On Thursdays, it's always an exciting day. In some ways, we have swimming lessons after school. Tired children getting towards Thursday, the two youngest have to go for swimming lessons, and I have the joy of taking them there, partly because the men's change room is quieter than the women's, and so it's a little bit easier to get them sorted. But I love watching them learn to swim and see them splashing about. I also enjoy the fact that I get to sit down and catch up on messages or Sudoku or whatever it might be. But when they learn to swim, there comes a point where they're happy walking about in the water and jumping about in the water and having all that sort of fun, but then there comes a point where they've got to actually take their feet off the bottom, off the stuff that's firm, in order to try and give swimming a go, or else, we can all walk in a swimming pool, yeah, but when we hit the deep end and it starts to get a bit too high, we're going to struggle. We have to make that decision if we want to swim, if we're going to float and lift our legs off the ground, or hold on to the firm footing that we know. And that's kind of what it's like with Jesus. In some senses, we kind of have to let go of all those things that the world tells us will build up our security, will help make everything feel okay. But we do that in order to gain everything. As it says in 1 Corinthians 1:18, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. It sounds ludicrous to give up everything, to let go of the firm footing we might have, especially in a society that is all about stuff, status, and self. I love the way that Tom Wright explains this. The point is that when Paul came into a pagan city that prided itself on its intellectual and cultural life and stood up to speak about Jesus of Nazareth, who had been crucified by the Romans but raised from the dead by God, and who was now the Lord of the world, summoning people to faithful obedience, he knew what people would think. This was and is the craziest message anybody could imagine. This wasn't a smart new philosophy, it was madness. It wasn't an appeal to high culture, it was news of an executed criminal from a despised race. Nor would the Jewish people themselves enjoy this message, as Paul knew it was a scandal to them. No Jew of the time was expecting a Messiah who would be executed by Rome. A Messiah ought to be defeating the pagans, not being killed by them. Paul had no illusions then about the gospel message, the royal announcement of King Jesus. Simply to make the announcement, to tell the story of Jesus and his cross, was to invite people to mock. I hadn't really thought of it in that way, but actually it's so, then proclaiming that message of Jesus must have seemed absolute madness, as it probably still does to many we meet today. But you see, we have that same invitation to lay down ourselves and to take up our cross. The invitation to share a message of foolishness in the eyes of the world, to surrender everything to him in order to gain everything. And that's the invitation
On it.
That's the invitation. We have a choice to serve.
Working on that.
Computer's too clever for itself. And that's the invitation we have if we choose to accept it. In a world that's all about part by war or self-promotion or greed, self-status and stuff, we have a countercultural message to offer if we're willing to. In the words of Tom Wright again, the Christian good news is all about God dying on a rubbish heap at the wrong end of the empire. It's about God babbling nonsense to a room full of philosophers. It's all about the true God confronting the world of posturing, power and prestige and overthrowing it to set up his own kingdom, a kingdom in which the weak and the foolish find themselves just as welcome as the strong and the wise, if not more so. I think that's just what I wrote. Yeah. I forgot to click. All about God dying on a rubbish heap at the wrong end of the empire. It's quite a good summary of the gospel message. So I wondered if we would just take a little bit of time to reflect. If you're at home, you can do this out on your sofa, chilling out. If you're here, just stay here, or we can gather into a group and talk if you want to. But I wonder, what does our vision of Jesus look like? Is it one that's maybe a little bit skewed, not quite as we'd expect? Because when it is skewed, like Peter and the Jews, but Peter especially, they must have felt sort of let down by Jesus in some ways when he was crucified, because it wasn't what they expected. That wasn't what a Messiah was meant to do. And if we have that same sense of maybe following God was meant to be like this, it was meant to, life was meant to be straightforward, or this shouldn't have happened, or that shouldn't have happened, or whatever it might be. Like you were speaking about this morning, that sense of having to hold it all in tension and just surrender it before God. And do we have are we willing to take that call of Jesus to simply lay down everything and to pick up the cross? Or do we have things in our hands that we're unwilling to let go of? In this Lent, do we perhaps need to allow God to help us to lay those things down, to surrender fully before Him in order to take up His cross, take up that message that's countercultural both in our life and in the world around? So I'm going to say farewell to these guys that are watching online, and then we'll figure out what we want to do in here. But take care, and maybe just take some time to reflect on those things. Is your vision of Jesus the right vision of Jesus? And have you got things you need to lay down this Lent in preparation to take up the cross and to follow Jesus with everything? Take care, we'll see you later. Another time.